The Art of Silent Power, a guide to self-overcoming in the modern world. Of outsmarting anyone without saying a word evokes images of cunning strategy, silent manipulation, and the subtle victory of a superior intellect in the social arena. It suggests a contest, a verbal and psychological duel fought within a shared system of values, where one person emerges triumphant. The philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, however, offers a far more radical and profound interpretation. From a Nietzschean standpoint, to truly outsmart another is not to win the game, but to transcend the game entirely. The ultimate form of power is not tactical silence, but a state of being so internally complete and self-possessed that the games of social dominance become irrelevant. This video will argue that such silent power is not a technique to be learned, but a natural byproduct of a rigorous and transformative process Nietzsche called self-overcoming. The very desire to outsmart others often arises from a place of perceived weakness, or a need to assert one's standing within a social hierarchy. This reactive posture, this preoccupation with one's position relative to others, is a hallmark of what Nietzsche identified as slave morality. Value system born from the resentment of the weak against the strong. The slave is forever comparing, forever measuring, forever seeking to level the field by pulling the powerful down. The master, in contrast, creates value from within, affirming their own worth, without reference to others. Therefore, the path to genuine power does not lie in acquiring more sophisticated tools for the slave's game of social competition. It lies in a fundamental inversion of this dynamic, a shift from the reactive need to best others to the creative drive to build oneself. This video serves as a comprehensive roadmap for this transformation. It will deconstruct and reassemble Nietzsche's core philosophical concepts: the will to power, the three metamorphoses, amorphity, perspectivism, and the ideal of the Übermensch into a practical framework for modern life. The journey will begin with the forging of the inner self, the sovereign individual who stands as the source of their own values. It will then proceed to navigate the external world of social and professional engagement, not as a participant in the herd's struggles, but as an independent observer and creator. Finally, it will explore the cultivation of authentic relationships, founded not on neediness, but on the mutual strength of self-realized individuals. The goal is to achieve a state of psychological sovereignty, where one's silence is formidable not because it is a calculated tactic, but because it emanates from a self-sufficient inner world that no longer requires external validation or victory in social skirmishes. This is the Art of Silent Power. Part 1. The engine of the self-forging the sovereign individual. The foundation of silent power is not built on external techniques, but on the internal architecture of the self. Before one can navigate the world with effortless command, one must first become the master of one's own inner kingdom. This requires understanding the fundamental forces that drive human existence and harnessing them for the purpose of growth. Nietzsche provides a powerful toolkit for this internal construction, centered on three core concepts: the will to power as the engine of self-overcoming, the three metamorphoses as the roadmap for its application, and amorphity, the will to power, as the drive for self-overcoming. At the heart of Nietzsche's philosophy lies the concept of the will to power. This is perhaps his most misunderstood idea, often wrongly equated with a brutish desire for political domination or social control. Misinterpretation notoriously exploited by Nazi ideology. In reality, Nietzsche presents the will to power as something far more fundamental and irrational. Irrational force found in all living things, driving them not merely to survive, but to expand, to grow, to exert strength, and to overcome resistance. Life itself, he posits, is will to power. For human beings, its highest expression is not domination over others, but domination over oneself. This is the process of self-overcoming. It is the innate desire to transcend one's current limitations, to break free from old habits, to challenge one's own beliefs, and to continuously strive for a higher, more excellent state of being. Nietzsche vehemently distinguished this drive from the Darwinian will to survive, which he considered a cowardly and passive goal fit only for the weak. A living thing does not merely want to exist, it wants to discharge its strength. The artist channels this will into creating a masterpiece, the philosopher into the pursuit of truth, the athlete into breaking a record, and the sovereign individual into the constant act of This internal focus is the first principle of silent power. It shifts the locus of control from the external world to the internal. The goal is no longer to gain power from others, but to cultivate power within oneself. His power is not a finite resource to be hoarded, but a dynamic force to be expressed through creative activity, self-discipline, and the relentless pursuit of self-imposed goals. Understanding the will to power as the engine of self-overcoming provides the fundamental motivation for the arduous journey of personal transformation. The three metamorphoses, a practical roadmap for personal evolution. If the will to power is the engine, the parable of the three metamorphoses from Thus Spoke Zarathustra provides the practical roadmap for its application. Nietzsche illustrates the path of the spirit's development not as a linear progression, but as a series of profound psychological transformations, each with its own necessary burdens and triumphs. First, the spirit becomes a camel. The camel is the beast of burden, representing the spirit of duty, discipline, and reverence. It kneels to take on the heaviest weights, the traditions, morals, and knowledge of its culture. This is the essential stage of learning and absorption. The camel ventures into the desert of knowledge, shouldering the thou shalt of society. This is not a stage of weakness to be scorned, but a necessary foundation of strength. One cannot overcome a system without first understanding its weight and structure. The camel learns to bear what is necessary, cultivating the discipline and resilience required for the journey ahead. Second, in the loneliest desert, the spirit transforms into a lion. The lion is the spirit of rebellion and sovereign negation. Having mastered the burdens, it now turns to confront the great dragon named Thou Shalt, on whose scales glitter the values of 1,000 years. The lion's sacred duty is to say no. It seeks to destroy the old values, to conquer the dragon, and to create freedom for a new creation. This is the critical, destructive phase of achieving independence. The lion does not yet create new values, but it clears the ground upon which they can be built. It reclaims its own will from the external authorities that have long dictated its path. Finally, the lion transforms into a child. The child represents a new beginning, innocence, and a sacred yet. It is a self-propelled wheel, a first movement. Having won its freedom, the spirit no longer needs to react against the old world. The child is pure affirmation, playing the divine game of creation. It creates its own values, not in opposition to anything, but from a place of joyful, innocent will. This is the ultimate state of the free spirit, a value creator who shapes the world according to their own affirmative vision. This three-stage process provides a concrete psychological framework for channeling the will to power. First, master the existing rules. Second, destroy their hold over you. Third, create your own. Amor fati, the unbreakable spirit and the ultimate affirmation. The journey of the three metamorphoses is one of immense struggle and suffering. To endure it, the spirit requires a psychological attitude of supreme resilience. Nietzsche provides this in the form of amor fatida, love of one's fate. He called this his formula for greatness in a human being, the highest state a philosopher can attain. Amor fati is not mere passive acceptance or stoic resignation to the inevitable. It is an active, enthusiastic, and even joyful embrace of everything that has ever happened and will ever happen in one's life. The good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, the triumphs, and the suffering as necessary components of one's being. It is the desire for nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary ... but love it. This powerful concept is inextricably linked to Nietzsche's thought experiment of the eternal recurrence. He asks us to imagine a demon whispering in our loneliest loneliness. This life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and sigh ... must return to you. How would one react? For most, this would be a crushing weight. But for the spirit that has achieved self-mastery, the response would be a cry of affirmation. The goal is to live in such a way that one would crave nothing more reverently than this ultimate eternal confirmation and seal. In daily life, amor fati is the ultimate tool for transmuting adversity into strength. It is the antidote to regret, blame, and a failure at work, a personal loss, a painful set, but as essential, formative events that have forged the very fabric of one's existence. They are the resistance that was necessary to make one stronger, the great pain that makes one more profound. The famous aphorism, "What does not kill me makes me stronger," is the most concise, if simplified, expression of this life-affirming principle. These three pillars Ava will to power, the three and amor fati form a dynamic and self-reinforcing system for forging the sovereign individual. The will to power provides the fundamental motive force for the journey of self. The metamorphoses provide the structured process for this journey, guiding the spirit from disciplined learning to rebellious freedom and finally to joyful creation. An amor fati provides the sustaining attitude that makes this difficult, often painful, process not only bearable but desirable. One cannot truly practice amor fati without the strength derived from the struggle of self-overcoming, and one cannot sustain the will to overcome the immense resistance of life without the profound resilience granted by amor. This integrated system is the engine of the self, the internal workshop where silent power is first forged. Part 2. Navigating the social arena beyond the herd. Once the internal foundation of the self is established, the individual must turn to the external world. To operate with silent power in the social arena is not to retreat from it, but to understand it with a clarity that others lack. It requires the ability to see through the surface of social interactions, moral pronouncements, and cultural norms to the underlying psychological forces at play. Nietzsche provides two indispensable tools for this task: the diagnostic framework of morality and the strategic cognitive advantage of perspectivism. Together, they allow the individual to break free from the herd instinct and navigate society as an independent, free spirit, decoding the moral matrix. Master and slave morality as a diagnostic tool. Nietzsche argues that what we call morality is not a timeless, objective truth, but a human invention with a specific history and psychology. In On the Genealogy of Morality and Beyond Good and Evil, he presents a powerful diagnostic framework for understanding the origin of values, the dichotomy between master morality and slave morality. These are not rigid categories for classifying people, but rather two opposing psychological frameworks for creating values. Master morality originates in the strong, noble, and powerful ruling castes of ancient civilizations. Theirs is a morality of affirmation. Feeling their own power and plenitude, they spontaneously create values that reflect their own nature. Good is synonymous with noble, strong, courageous, proud, and life of. Bad is simply a designation for what is not like them. Common, weak, cowardly, and plebeian. This morality is created from a pathos of distance, a consciousness of their require external validation or the approval of the rule. The master is a value creator, honoring himself as powerful and judging things as harmful or beneficial in themselves. Slave morality, in contrast, is born among the weak, the oppressed, and the powerless. It is a fundamentally reactive morality, its genesis lying in resentment, festering, vengeful hatred of the masters whom they cannot overcome through direct action. The slave revolt in morality begins when this resentment becomes creative. It performs a radical revaluation of values. The evil enemy is now defined as everything. The master is powerful, independent, prideful, and even cruel. From this negation, a new good is born. Everything that soothes the existence of the suffering herd. Pity, humility, kindness, patience, and equality become the highest virtues. The essence of slave morality is its utility for the collective. It aims to tame the strong and make them feel guilty for their very strength. This framework is a powerful diagnostic tool for the modern individual. It allows one to decode the hidden motivations behind any moral claim, social movement, or political ideology. When a value is promoted, one can ask, does this originate from a place of strength and light, or does it originate from a place of weakness, envy, reaction, and a desire to constrain the strong? By understanding this psychological matrix, one can see the deeper currents beneath the surface of social discourse, granting a profound advantage in understanding the world without needing to engage in its superficial debates. To point to the psychology of the herd and the path to independence, the dominant force in modern society, according to Nietzsche, is the herd instinct, the psychological manifestation of slave morality. The herd values safety, comfort, and equality above all else. It demands conformity and punishes individuality. Nietzsche argues that this conformity is not born of modesty but of indolence, inertia, in short, that tendency to laziness. People are even lazier than they are timid, and fear most of all the inconveniences with which unconditional honesty and nakedness would burden them. This pressure to conform turns individuals into factory products, uniform, predictable, and devoid of unique potential. The antidote to the herd is to become a free spirit. This is the individual who has the courage to break away from the collective, to question all inherited values, and to think for themselves. The free spirit is not merely a contrarian. They are a seeker of knowledge who understands the necessity of solitude for profound thought. While the herd seeks validation from others, the free spirit creates their own values and lives by their own law. This path is not easy. It requires resisting immense social pressure and embracing a certain degree of isolation. However, it is the only path to true individuality and psychological freedom. The journey of the free spirit is to move beyond the reactive morality of the herd and become an active creator of one's own life. Part 3. The Workshop of Excellence. Nietzsche at Work. The principles of self-overcoming and social navigation find their most practical and visible application in the professional sphere. The workplace is a modern arena of power, ambition, and hierarchy, a complex ecosystem governed by spoken and unspoken rules. A Nietzschean approach to one's career is not about mastering office politics in the conventional sense, but about revaluing the very concepts of work, ambition, and leadership to transform one's professional life into a vehicle for self-creation and the expression of excellence. Ambition revalued. From climbing ladders to creating worlds. Modern professional life is often driven by a conventional form of ambition. The pursuit of wealth, status, and power as defined and validated by the herd. For Nietzsche, this kind of ambition is ultimately and thus spoke Zarathustra. He critiques the superfluous people who acquire wealth and make themselves poorer with it. They desire power, and especially the lever of power, plenty of money. This is because such ambition is reactive. It accepts the values of the existing system and seeks only to climb its predefined ladder. It makes one dependent on external validation in the promotion, the title, the salary, and thus, in a deeper sense, a slave to the system. Nietzschean ambition is a radical revaluation of this concept. It is the will to power directed inward and expressed outward through creation. True ambition is the drive to create new values, to become the highest version of oneself, and to impose one's own meaningful form onto the chaos of existence. The goal is not to be the best player in the game, but to invent a new and better game entirely. This involves setting one's own goals, independent of societal praise or financial reward, and embracing the suffering and struggle that are an inevitable part of any great creative endeavor. The truly ambitious individual is not the one who gets the corner office, but the one who revolutionizes their field, creates a work of lasting beauty, or builds a life of profound meaning according to their own self-author. Their work is not a means to an end, but an end in itself, the primary medium for this. Part 4. The Sanctum of the Self. Nietzsche at Home. The principles of self-overcoming and value creation are not confined to the public and professional spheres. Their most intimate and perhaps most challenging application is within the home, in our closest relationships. Nietzsche offers a bracingly unsentimental yet ultimately profound vision for love, friendship, and family life. He calls for us to move beyond conventional notions of romance and duty, and to build our personal lives on a foundation of individual strength, mutual admiration, and a shared commitment to growth. This is where the sovereign individual builds their sanctum, not as a retreat from the world, but as a crucible for becoming who they are. Friendship as a higher love. The union of sovereign individuals. Nietzsche is famously critical of conventional romantic love. He often views it as a form of disguised egoism, a craving for possession rooted in neediness, weakness, and illusion. He saw the breathless passion of romance as a fleeting intoxication that often obscures a fundamental incompatibility between two people. This led to his most famous pronouncement on the matter: "It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages." For Nietzsche, the highest form of human connection is not romantic love, but a noble form of friendship. This is not the casual camaraderie of the herd, but a sacred bond between two strong, independent, and self-possessed individuals. The ideal Nietzschean friendship is a relationship between two sovereigns who do not seek to merge, complete, or possess one another. They are not two halves seeking a whole. Rather, they are two whole individuals who share a higher thirst for an ideal above them. They see in each other a fellow traveler on the path of self-overcoming. They act as an arrow of desire pointing towards the Übermensch for one another, challenging and inspiring each other to greater heights. This friendship is founded on mutual admiration for the other's character and strength. Crucially, a true friend is valuable not just for their similarities, but for their differences. They are not an echo, but a worthy opponent who forces us to question our assumptions and grow stronger through challenge. The friend, Nietzsche suggests, should be the festival of the earth to you and an anticipation of the Übermensch. This reframes the search for a life partner. one should seek not a source of comfort, but a companion in the noble struggle of becoming. The art of the self and the authentic relationship. This ideal of friendship can only be realized between two individuals who are themselves engaged in the project of self. Nietzsche's aesthetic imperative, to give style to one's character, great and rare art, is the prerequisite for authentic relationships. An authentic individual is one who has taken the raw material of their nature, their strengths, weaknesses, passions, and limitations, and forged them into a coherent, powerful, and beautiful whole. According to their own artistic plan, they are the author of their own life. Authentic relationships, therefore, are not based on two people conforming to pre-written societal scripts: the good husband, the dutiful wife, the perfect couple. They are based on a dynamic, unpredictable, and creative interaction of two unique self-authored beings. The relationship itself becomes a shared work of art, a marvelously picturesque piece of diversity and unity. It is a space where both individuals can express their full, authentic selves without fear of judgment from the herd. This requires immense trust and the recognition that true intimacy is not about losing oneself in another, but about two sovereign selves choosing to share a path. 4.3 Beyond Good and Evil in Love and Family. Applying the principle of being beyond good and evil to one's personal life is a radical act of liberation. It means transcending the petty moral calculus of slave morality that poisons so many relationships. The scorekeeping, the blame, the guilt, the transactional forgiveness, and the weaponization of duty and obligation. Nietzsche suggests that actions performed out of a genuine, affirmative love take place beyond good and evil. This is not the needy, possessive love of the herd, but a love that flows from a position of strength and affirmation. It is a love that says yes to the other person in their entirety, with all their flaws and strengths, just as Amor Fati says yes to life itself. Building a relationship on this foundation means replacing the morality of debt and guilt with a shared ethos of mutual strength, trust, and a common affirmation of life. It means embracing the challenges, conflicts, and difficulties of life together, not as failures but as necessary components of a shared fate that both partners lovingly affirm. Ultimately, the Nietzschean vision of a relationship is profoundly challenging. It reframes the very purpose of partnership. The goal is not happiness, comfort, or securities. These are the goals of the herd. The goal is growth. The ideal partner is, in a sense, a worthy enemy, someone strong enough to challenge you, honest enough to confront you, and noble enough to inspire you. The relationship becomes a shared crucible for self-overcoming. It is not a retreat from the world's struggles, but a focused intensification of the most important struggle of all: the creation of a higher self, undertaken with a trusted and admired ally. This is the ultimate expression of love as a shared will to power. Conclusion: becoming the architect of your own existence. The journey to outsmart anyone without saying a word, when viewed through the piercing lens of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy, reveals itself to be something far more ambitious and transformative than a mere quest for social advantage. It is the arduous, lifelong project of becoming the sovereign architect of one's own existence. The silent power that this report has detailed is not a tactic to be deployed, but the natural state of being for the individual who has achieved a profound level of self-mastery. This individual has undertaken the three metamorphoses. They have shouldered the burdens of the camel to gain discipline, unleashed the sacred no of the lion to win their freedom, and embraced the sacred yes of the child to become a creator of new values. They have fortified their spirits with Amor Fati, learning not just to bear but to love their fate, transforming every obstacle and every suffering into a necessary and beautiful component of their being. This renders them psychologically invincible, free from the corrosive poisons of regret and Armed with this inner strength, they navigate the social world with a new clarity, using the framework of master and slave morality. They diagnose the hidden psychological currents beneath the surface of human interaction, understanding the motivations of the herd without being swayed by them. They have cultivated the cognitive freedom of perspectivism, recognizing that all knowledge is interpretation and that true objectivity lies in the ability to command a multitude of viewpoints. This grants them a strategic understanding that is silent, deep, and decisive. They are a creator of values, an affirmer of fate, and a master of their own soul. Their presence alone is a statement of power, not because it is asserted, but because it is inherent in their being. They no longer need to speak to win petty arguments or assert their dominance, for they have overcome the very need to engage in the conflicts of the herd. They are occupied with a far greater task: the continual, creative work of self-overcoming. Nietzsche offers no easy answers, no simple formulas for happiness or success. His philosophy is a challenge, a call to arms for the spirit. It demands courage, discipline, and a willingness to stand alone. It points toward a path of constant struggle, creation, and recreation. The tools for this monumental task have been laid bare. The destination is a higher form of humanity, one that creates its own meaning in a world where old gods have died. The final instruction is perhaps the most liberating, as Zarathustra advises the solitary traveler who has become the master of their own path. In this world there is one unique path which no one but you may walk. Where does it lead? Do not ask. Take it.